President Trump is back to flirting with the idea of moving forward with his so-called anti-weaponization fund. In an interview with NBC's Meet the Press that aired this morning, Trump insisted he would like to see the fund proceed. Listen.
Are you backing off the fund completely, as your acting attorney general Todd Blanche has said, or are you looking for another avenue to revive the fund?
Let me explain what the fund is. People have been hurt so badly by radical left lunatics that worked for the Biden administration and Sleepy Joe. They're vicious, they're violent, what they did to people. And of course, they went after me more than anybody else. They raided Mar-a-Lago and all the other things. But people have been badly hurt. They've committed suicide. They've lost their jobs. They've lost their families. They've lost their wives. They've lost everything. They've lost everything over a fake weaponization of government. Now,
so
let me just tell you.
Are you looking for a way to revive it?
Well, look, if it was up to me, I'd pay them the kind of money that they deserve. People have been destroyed. Lives have been destroyed.
Do you think anyone who attacked police officers on January 6th should get taxpayer money?
I wouldn't be inclined to say so, but I have to see it. I can tell you this, 97% of those people, you look at them, the FBI or whoever it was, because you had a lot of crooked cops, you had dirty cops.
Joining us now, former Metropolitan D.C. police officer Michael Fanone, who was injured while trying to protect the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. He's an advisory board member and spokesman for Home of the Brave and author of Hold the Line, The Insurrection and One Cop's Battle for America's Soul. So, Michael, you have a better sense of what happened that day than anyone here. Talk through your thoughts after hearing the president on this fund.
Well, first of all, I don't think that he's considering going forward with the fund. I think he absolutely will go forward with the fund. There's nobody to stand in Donald Trump's way, no one to stop him. Republican lawmakers, back down. Recently, senators backed down from preventing Trump and the Department of Justice from going forward with this fund. So I'm confident that American taxpayer dollars will go to compensate violent insurrectionists who assaulted law enforcement officers, to include the 6 individuals who pled guilty to assaulting me.
Michael, we also learned this week that the Pentagon hired a convicted January 6th rioter who was 19 at the time of the riot in 2021 and who was convicted for he was appointed to a sensitive counterterrorism job. What's your message to lawmakers when it comes to fighting not just the fund itself, but this other coziness with January 6ers, even hiring of January 6ers?
I mean, I don't think it should come as any surprise to any lawmakers, and quite frankly, I don't think it does. There just doesn't seem to be a willingness on both sides of the political aisle to prevent this from happening and doing what it actually takes to prevent these individuals. I mean, we saw Jared Wise, the disgraced former FBI agent, become a part of, an investigator for, and a consultant to the weaponization committee within the Department of Justice, which was ironic to say the least. But this was an individual that directed other violent insurrectionists to kill cops. Those were his words, kill cops. I think that it should be obvious to everyone that Donald Trump sees these individuals as heroes. He absolved them of all criminal culpability through his blanketed pardons, to include those that assaulted law enforcement officers. And now he wants to pay them, whether that's to send a message that he takes care of those that commit criminal acts on his behalf, or whether it's to inspire them or others to commit criminal acts on his behalf in the future. We're going into the midterm elections. Republicans clearly are concerned. Trump's policies are incredibly unpopular in this country on both sides of the political aisle. And I believe that that violence will be a part of the Republican agenda when it comes to securing victory in the midterm elections and going forward.
Can you dig into that a little bit for me, Michael? If these people are able to get money from the federal government, from taxpayers, what do you believe they're going to do with those funds?
I'm sure there's a whole variety of different things that, everything from paying off their double wides to buying a lifted truck to stockpiling firearms and ammunition. The sky is the limit there. And I think it's important also for the American people to recognize that, just even if this fund was to go away, even if you were to believe Todd Blanche, which I don't, I think he lied under oath when he said that the fund was dead. But you still have the Federal Tort Claims Act. And for those who are not familiar, there is a fund that exists that does not have a cap within the Department of Justice that allows them to pay out, lawsuits or civil claims against the Department of Justice. And I think this blanketed fund was created, one, because they like the publicity of it, but two, because it's just easier to go about paying people out rather than having to address each individual claim one at a time and require individuals to actually file lawsuits against the Department of Justice.
Michael, let me come back to something you had alluded to earlier, and that is what all of this means for the elections that we're about to go through in the midterms and the election cycle in 2028. I mean, if this does go through, whether it is in a, kind of a transparent way or in this kind of like very shady way that the Trump administration wants to try to go about it, he's pushing the narrative that the election was stolen. He's doing it again in California. He's trying to give money to people who tried to overturn the election the first time around. What do you think this means for the midterms and the presidential cycle?
I think it's going to be like an election cycle that we've never seen in this country. If you look at what Donald Trump has done, what this administration has done in the months leading up to this election cycle, it's their typical tactic of let's throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. They're using violence. They're using state-sponsored violence. They've weaponized law enforcement against the American people. There's, political prosecutions of Donald Trump's enemies. You have Customs and Border Patrol. You have ICE agents deployed on American streets in a fashion that, quite frankly, we haven't seen in this country in decades. You have active duty military deployed to American streets. You also have the FBI conducting search warrants, seizing ballots. They are going to do, and when I say they, I say that it's the Trump administration is going to do absolutely everything it can to secure victory in the midterm elections, to include violating the Constitution and breaking the law, which is something that they don't have any issue with whatsoever.
Michael Fanone, thank you as always. I know it's not easy to relive all this stuff and to talk about it. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.